The ocean didn't whisper secrets. It kept them buried. At 12,000 meters below sea level, sound warped into something unrecognizable. The Mariana Trench had always drawn curious minds, but this time, the expedition wasn't there. Instead, it was the Puerto Rico Trench, an oddly quiet cousin to the Pacific's famous abyss. Quieter, colder, and recently, humming. The hum wasn't seismic. It wasn't marine life. It wasn't a sonar glitch. It pulsed. Dr. Lennox Ryland knew that sound. No, that rhythm would be burned into her skull until the day she died. A low, steady cadence, almost like breathing. She first caught it 6 weeks ago during a standard sonar sweep from the OSV Ariadne, a research vessel jointly funded by NASA and the U.S. Naval Office for Deep Anomalies. The name was ironic. Ariadne helped Theseus find his way out of the maze. But Lennox had a growing feeling they were walking in. She sat at the observation deck, her brown eyes glued to the flickering digital model of the trench on the main screen. Something glinted in the new scans, smooth. Not sediment, not rock. Something too deliberate. A voice broke through her thoughts. "Another pass, Doctor?" Lennox glanced over her shoulder. Lieutenant Commander Elias North stood in the doorway, arms folded, wearing his usual scowl. He wasn't a fan of scientists. Or maybe he just wasn't a fan of her. Hard to tell. "Yes," Lennox replied. "We'll widen the sweep radius. 2 more clicks east." Elias grunted, half agreeing. "The boys downstairs are getting jumpy. They say the drones are lagging. Some kind of signal interference." Lennox's lips tightened. That was the 3rd time someone mentioned lag. And the 3rd time instruments near the anomaly flickered, as if something massive shifted in the water, but nothing ever showed on the visuals. Just that damn hum. By the time the 3rd scan finished, the model was clear. A large object, easily 5 kilometers in length, partially buried beneath the trench floor. The sonar return was absurdly strong. It was made of metal, but not just metal. Lennox leaned closer, eyes widening. "That's impossible." Elias stepped up beside her. "Talk." She magnified the thermal overlay. The object was cold. Too cold. Beyond the freezing temperature of the surrounding water. A void in heat. Like it rejected it. Rejected being here. A hush fell over the command center. On the monitor, a jagged silhouette stretched across the seabed. Massive and alien. No one spoke. And then, "Jesus," whispered one of the sonar techs. "That's a ship." Someone behind him snorted. How the hell would a ship that size even get down there? Lennox's mouth went dry. "It didn't crash," she murmured. "Look at the contours." "It landed." Elias stared at her. "Are you saying the thing was built to withstand the pressure at 12,000 meters? The crushed depth would turn a carrier into a soda can." "I'm saying we didn't build that." Lennox turned to him, voice low. "And I don't think anyone from Earth did either." Within the hour, orders came down from the top. Initiate descent. The Ariadne's deep-sea submersible, Calypso 4, would lead the dive. Lennox insisted on being aboard. The submersible held 4 seats. Lennox, naturally. Elias, assigned for security. Dr. Hiro Tanaka, a robotics engineer who would manage the scanning drones. And a pilot named Nash, a civilian contractor who looked like he hadn't slept in a week and drank like sleep was optional. As they sealed themselves into Calypso 4, Lennox whispered a single word under her breath. "Ariadne." The dive began just after 3 a.m. The water outside quickly turned to ink. Sunlight died at 200 meters. Then the cold came, creeping, all-consuming. By 7,000 meters, no one spoke. By 11,000 meters, the comms crackled. Ost visual. Repeat, camera feeds are unstable. Elias looked at Nash. "You losing NAV?" The pilot squinted at the flickering screens. "No, but it's like we're not sinking anymore. Feels like something's pulling us. Gentle, but definitely guiding. Not helping," muttered Tanaka. Lennox didn't say anything. Her eyes were locked on the forward viewport. It came into view like a nightmare rising from the ocean floor. Gleaming ridges like armor plating. A tower-like structure at its center. Spikes protruded from the front. No symmetry, no logic, like it had been grown rather than engineered. The shape of it hurt to look at. Too many sharp angles. Too many curves where there shouldn't be. The light from their external lamps just slid off it. Then they saw the emblem, an insignia, etched deep into a circular hull plate the size of a building. A spiral of broken lines, intersected by a slash of triangles. Tanaka gasped. That's not a language. No, Lennox whispered. It's a warning. The ship had no name, no registration, no signs of propulsion. But there was a rupture in its side, clean, almost too perfect, like something had sliced through the metal with a blade the size of a skyscraper. The opening looked like a mouth, and they were headed right into it. Who gave the order to enter? Elias demanded. The ship did, said Nash softly. Look, they hadn't touched the controls, but the submersible was moving, not by propulsion, but by slow magnetic pull. The lights inside the structure flickered faintly, as if welcoming them. Something's active inside, Tanaka said. The panels are glowing. Faint, but it's power. This thing has power. 3,000 years under pressure, Elias growled. That's impossible. We keep using that word, Lennox said, but it doesn't care. As the sub drifted further in, the walls of the alien ship narrowed. The sub's external lights revealed a tunnel lined with odd protrusions, like vertebrae, as if the ship had a spine. Then the signal came, a sharp ping over their comms, followed by garbled audio. A voice. Human. Don't. No escape. They're still inside the walls, inside. The transmission cut out. Everyone went still. Play that back, Elias said. Tanaka hit the loop. Static. Then, don't come. Too late. They're already awake. Elias slammed his fist on the console. Who the hell was that? I'm checking logs, Tanaka said. No prior expeditions. No registered missions in this zone. Then who? The lights cut out. Silence swallowed the sub. Backup power online, Nash said quickly, flipping switches. The emergency lights bathed the interior in red. Outside, the alien walls pulsed with a slow, breathing light. And then movement. A shape drifted past the viewport. Humanoid, but elongated, emaciated, floating like it was weightless. No oxygen tank, no suit. Its eyes glowed pale blue. Everyone froze. Another shape drifted behind it, and another. Dozens. Then the ship lit up, faint lines of bioluminescent veins along the inner corridors, tracing pathways like neural lines. And one central hallway illuminated directly ahead. It wants us to go that way, Lennox said, breath fogging the glass. No, Elias snapped. We're pulling back. Right now. But the thrusters didn't engage. Nash cursed. It's not me. We're being held. By what? Tanaka asked. The lights outside flickered again. And then the hum returned. Louder. Deeper. A resonance that shook their bones. Like something immense and ancient had just stirred from slumber. Lennox whispered, almost in awe. It knows we're here. Elias looked at her sharply. Get us out. I don't think we can, Nash muttered. I don't think it's going to let us. The hum turned rhythmic again. Pulse. 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 Like a heartbeat. Lennox stared ahead, eyes wide. It's not a ship, she said softly. It's alive. As they drifted deeper into the bowels of the impossible vessel, the last thing the surface team received was a final message from Calypso 4, sent automatically as the data buffers overloaded. A single sentence, unbidden. We are not the first to find it. And then silence. The inner corridor was too smooth to be natural, too clean for time. Lennox stared through the viewport of Calypso 4 as the submersible slid forward, no longer under the control of its pilot. It wasn't falling, wasn't gliding. It was being delivered. The warship had decided where they were going, and they weren't in any position to argue. Beside her, Commander Elias North had his sidearm drawn, even though it was more symbolic than useful at this depth. I don't like being led, he muttered, as if the ship could hear him. Maybe it could. Nash sat frozen at the helm, his fingers twitching slightly. His eyes hadn't blinked in minutes. Controls are responding, he whispered. But not to me. Tanaka adjusted his tablet, trying to sync the mapping drones. The ship's internal gravity just normalized. It's not matching Earth standard, but it's close. Artificial. Deliberate. I can't tell how. It's been buried for 3,000 years, Lennox said, her voice low, laced with awe. And it still thinks. As the sub was gently guided into a vast chamber, it stopped without warning. A soft metallic chime echoed from the ship's interior, as if acknowledging their arrival. The viewport cleared, and they saw a wall of segmented plating split open ahead of them like the iris of an eye. The opening beyond it glowed faintly. Docking complete, Nash muttered, almost to himself. Lennox's fingers trembled as she undid her harness. "We going on foot?" "Hell we do," Elias barked. "You want to step outside into a dead ship? With those things floating around?" "They were watching us," Lennox said calmly. "But they didn't attack." Yet Tanaka added, "But they all knew she was right." Curiosity or madness, it was hard to tell the difference now, but something in that ship was reaching out to them. And somehow, somewhere deep in their bones, they felt it wasn't done showing them things. The inner airlock opened to a platform. Miraculously, there was breathable air, not fresh but sterile, synthetic. The air processing must have reactivated as soon as they docked. The walkway was lined with low light, barely brighter than moonlight. It led down a long corridor where walls curved organically, like being inside a massive fossilized creature. "Gravity's holding steady," Tanaka said as they stepped out. "Feels weirdly comforting. No dust," Elias noted, sweeping his flashlight along the walls. "No decay. No signs of entropy. That's not natural." Lennox touched one of the walls. It was cool and vibrated faintly beneath her fingers, like a living pulse. "There's a hum again," Nash said. "It's almost soothing." They followed the corridor to a larger chamber shaped like a dome. At its center stood an elevated platform with a console, or what resembled one. Floating glyphs hovered over its surface, shifting when they got closer. Tanaka reached for his scanning device. Radiation negligible. Electromagnetic field is stable. Barely. He paused. "There's something else. These readings don't make sense." "What kind of not making sense?" Elias asked. "The kind where physics taps out. Mass distortions. Inverted density. And here, he pointed at the hovering glyphs. These symbols aren't static. They're responding to us." "Don't touch anything," Elias warned. But Lennox was already moving. "I think it wants us to." "Of course it does," Elias snapped. "So, we can finish whatever it started." "It hasn't harmed us," she replied. "That doesn't mean it's friendly." "No," Lennox admitted. "But maybe it's lonely." She reached toward the console, and the symbols flared, briefly bathing the room in a sickly turquoise glow. Then the platform beneath them shifted. Not violently, but like a breath being drawn. A soft tremor rippled through the ship. "Movement beneath us," Nash said. "Something just activated." Tanaka's screen filled with cascading data, symbols, lines, and distorted shapes. His eyes widened. "This thing's running a simulation. It's showing star maps. Systems I don't recognize. And one marked in red." The display shifted to a projection, a map of deep space, planets flaring like points of fire. Then a zoom. A system. 8 planets. 1 blue. "Earth," Lennox whispered. "That's Earth." Zooming from Earth, Tanaka corrected. "It's not searching. It's remembering." The projection blinked again. And this time, the star shifted, aged. Earth vanished. A black sphere replaced it. Everything turned cold and dark. Then came a sound, a cry. Not mechanical. Not language. A keening, tortured sound that echoed in the chamber from everywhere and nowhere. Nash clutched his ears. "Make it stop." And it did. Instantly. Too instantly. "That wasn't a recording," Tanaka whispered. "It was real time. A transmission. Something received us. It knows we're here." Elias looked around. Or maybe we just woke it up. They moved forward, deeper into the interior. The ship's corridors shifted with them. What was a wall one moment became a hallway the next. The architecture adapted, not just to their movement, but their choices. Each door opened before they reached it. Lennox noticed something else. They weren't getting tired. They'd been awake for hours, descending under pressure, yet no fatigue pulled at her limbs. No hunger, no thirst. "This place isn't just preserving us," she said aloud. It's replacing our needs. Tanaka stopped in front of another chamber. This room isn't empty. They peered inside. Dozens of capsules, tall, opaque, like sarcophagi, lined the walls. Most were dark, but one glowed with dim blue light. Inside, a body floated. Humanoid. Long limbs. Hairless. Skin faintly translucent. No eyes. The skin was webbed with something like circuitry. They aren't dead, Tanaka said quietly. These aren't coffins. They're stasis units. Elias stepped back. We're leaving. We can't, Lennox replied. I wasn't asking permission. As he turned, the door behind them sealed shut with a groan. The lights dimmed, and something shifted in the dark. Movement at the far end. Nash yelled. Out of the black, something stepped forward. It looked human. It wasn't. It wore a suit, patchy, ancient, mismatched with both modern and alien tech. The faceplate was cracked. The insignia was U.S. Navy. And behind the fractured glass was a skull. Partially intact, the jaw dislocated. Tanaka stumbled back. That's impossible. Lennox's breath hitched. It's one of ours. The figure raised its hand, not as a threat, but in greeting. It made a slow, shuddering gesture across its chest, then pointed at Lennox. Me? She whispered. The lights flared, and for a moment, the figure shifted, overlapping forms like reflections in rippling water. It wasn't one person. It was many, layered, repeating. A time echo, Tanaka said, shaking. This ship has memory. It remembers us. Elias pointed his weapon. You all see that, right? The image flickered. Then the skull behind the glass smiled. But it wasn't possible. No teeth. No muscles. Just the idea of a smile. And it spoke. You always come back. The voice was layered, metallic, and human all at once. A chorus of voices echoed beneath it. Men, women, children. We find you, it said. We always do. The figure faded like smoke. The room returned to silence. Explain, Elias barked, voice shaking. Tanaka's hand trembled. Temporal feedback. This ship isn't just alive. It's entangled across time. That wasn't a ghost. That was a future, or a past. A version of someone of us, who didn't leave. Lennox stared into the now empty chamber. The ship doesn't move through space. It moves through wind, and we're stuck inside it, Nash said, pale as bone. The platform beneath them pulsed again. Another door opened. We're being taken somewhere else, Lennox said. Another level. Then we destroy it, Elias snapped. We find its power core, and You think this thing has a core? Tanaka hissed. It's not a machine. It's an organism. You can't just unplug it. Elias turned to Lennox. We end this. Now, or it ends us. But Lennox shook her head. No, we're not here by accident. You think it wanted us? Elias asked. No, her eyes were haunted. I think it's used to us. They stepped in the next chamber, a vault. At its center stood a massive sphere, floating above a bed of coiled metal and soft, flowing matter that looked disturbingly organic. The sphere pulsed. Tanaka scanned it, but his device went dead. It's not tech, he said. It's mind. It's intelligence. Then we destroy that, Elias growled. But Lennox moved forward slowly. No, wait. The sphere flared. Light filled the room. And for a heartbeat, they weren't there. They were elsewhere. The stars had gone red. Earth was a burned-out husk. The moon shattered. Alien warships drifted like carrion birds. A memory? A prophecy? The light faded. The room returned. Nash collapsed, screaming. Elias fell to one knee, weapon clattering to the floor. Lennox stood, trembling. It's showing us. What comes if it wakes up fully? Tanaka wiped his eyes. This ship wasn't built for war. It was war, a weapon, one that broke time to survive its creators. And now it's not alone, Lennox whispered. We're the first living minds it's felt in millennia. And it's curious. The sphere pulsed again, like a heartbeat. You always come back, the voice repeated from nowhere. They weren't passengers. They were the next iteration. Tanaka wasn't breathing. Lennox dropped beside him, pressing her fingers against his throat. His pulse was erratic, thready. His skin had turned pale, almost translucent, and his eyes stared at the ceiling, unfocused. She whispered his name twice, but he didn't respond. Nash stood frozen a few feet away, arms rigid at his sides, murmuring to himself. It showed us. It showed us. It showed. Commander, Lennox called without looking up. Elias didn't answer. He stood near the floating sphere, jaw clenched, eyes narrowed to slits. It's not just a weapon, he said slowly. It's a recorder. It keeps them, whoever built it, in its memory. What if it's making us part of it? Lennox stood and stepped back. Tanaka's alive, but he's not responsive. He's infected, Elias growled. No, she snapped. Changed. There's a difference. I don't like that difference. The sphere pulsed again, and a column of light expanded across the floor, revealing a smooth pathway extending into the darkness, like the ship was inviting them deeper. Again, this is its pattern, Lennox muttered. Lure, reveal, echo. And now, it wants more. Wants what? Elias asked. She glanced at the still floating sphere. Contact. Nash laughed suddenly, a sharp, humorless bark. It's a museum of nightmares, and we're the new exhibit. You don't get it. We've already joined it. It's copying us. They turned toward him. He pointed to the walls, no longer smooth. They were shifting. Faces. Just faint outlines. Eyes. Mouths. Human. Alien. Hundreds, maybe thousands, emerging in the steel like trapped souls beneath ice. Lennox's throat tightened. She didn't believe in ghosts, but this ship defied belief. Whatever this was, it was alive in a way that memory and flesh couldn't explain. And it remembered everything. Get Tanaka up, Elias ordered. We moved forward. No turning back now. Back goes nowhere, Nash muttered, as they hoisted Tanaka between them. They followed the new passage, deeper into the warship's interior. The corridor stretched longer than any spatial logic allowed. After 20 minutes of walking, their boots still echoed on the same seamless metallic floor. The walls were curved and pulsing faintly, as if the ship had its own circulatory system. No signs, no directions, no turning back. Then, at last, the corridor opened into a circular chamber. In its center was a massive, transparent tank, filled with thick, pulsing fluid. Suspended within it floated something enormous, vaguely humanoid, but impossibly tall, its limbs coiled in on themselves like a fetus in the womb. It wasn't asleep. It was waiting. Nash sank to his knees. That's what was inside the missing stasis pod, he whispered. It's not one of the crew, Elias muttered. It's a pilot. The being's skin was pale gray, almost opalescent. It had no mouth, no discernible eyes, but it radiated a presence, one Lennox felt pressing against her skull like a weight. Thoughts, memories, alien emotions, an overwhelming need. Connection. The ship's still listening, Lennox whispered. Tanaka stirred weakly. His voice was dry and cracked. They built this to contain it, not to escape. What do you mean? Elias snapped. Tanaka didn't answer. Instead, the fluid inside the tank began to boil. The being opened its eyes, black orbs that held stars. Not metaphors. Actual constellations blinked behind those pupils. It looked at Lennox, and suddenly, she was elsewhere, in a field of blue grass beneath twin moons. The wind blew with the voice of children. Towers floated above her. Ships descended not from the sky, but from fractures in light itself. A world unlike anything Earth had ever conceived. Then fire, screams, endless war, cities breaking apart not from bombs, but from time unraveling around them. Soldiers made of thought and entropy. And a name, or something like a name, whispered in her mind. Virexath. She gasped, stumbling backward into Elias, who caught her. You saw it too, he said. Nash was still on his knees, rocking now. It's not an alien. It's a survivor. Lennox turned toward him. A survivor of what? Nash looked up. In the reflection of the tank's glass, she saw it. Not Nash. Not quite. Something layered beneath his face. A reflection that didn't match. His lips moved, but the voice was wrong. Off by a second by a timbre, as if someone else was speaking through him. We never should have opened it, he said. And then the lights cut out. Darkness swallowed them whole. A heartbeat later, emergency lighting sputtered to life, but now the walls were moving. They undulated, pulsing like lungs, inhaling. Nash stood up, too smoothly. His body twitched once. Then again, Elias raised his weapon. "Nash," he barked. "Answer me." "I'm fine," Nash said. Too calm, too perfect. Lennox stepped between them. "Put the gun down." "No," Elias growled. But Nash held up his hand, and Elias froze in place. Not from fear, from paralysis. His body locked mid-motion, pupils dilating. "Nash, stop!" Lennox yelled, but the thing in Nash's skin only smiled. Tanaka crawled to his feet, using the wall. "The ship needs a host." Lennox's mind reeled. "You're saying? It doesn't pilot like we do. It uses memory, instinct. The brain is the interface. Nash is just processing material." Nash, or whatever wore him, turned toward the tank. The being inside had vanished. Gone. The tank was empty. Elias collapsed to the floor, gasping as movement returned to his limbs. "It's loose," he choked. "No," Lennox said slowly. "It's not loose. It's inside him." But then Nash shivered and fell limp. And standing behind him was the creature. Not corporeal, not entirely physical. A being of shadow and thought, overlapping time and presence, like a projection folded into flesh. It looked at Lennox again, and it spoke, but not aloud. It thought directly into her skull. "You were the first to listen." Her mind buckled. Flashes of images, Earth's orbit, spinning backward, moon crumbling like ash, vast black serpents swimming through suns, words with no alphabet, weapons that shattered planets not by force, but by rewriting causality. Then, silence. The creature stepped backward into the shadows. Gone. Nash groaned. His eyes fluttered open, normal now. "What the hell just happened?" he whispered. "We were used," Elias said bitterly. "It needed someone to interface, to unlock. We didn't just wake it up," Lennox said. "We gave it permission." Tanaka nodded, his expression distant. "It wasn't trapped here. It was waiting. We're not the first expedition, Lennox. We're just the first successful one." The others looked at him. "How do you know that?" Elias asked. Tanaka reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a patch. "Navy issue, from the USS Alexandria. A vessel that vanished without a trace in 1983. I found in the hall," he said, "along with the bones." The warship had a long memory, and it was growing longer. As they turned to leave the chamber, the passage behind them had changed again. Wider now, more welcoming. The ship wasn't imprisoning them. It was preparing them. The warship wasn't metal anymore. Not fully. The further they moved through its shifting corridors, the more it resembled something organic. Flesh pretending to be steel. The walls no longer hummed. They pulsed with rhythm. A heartbeat. The heartbeat of something old. Not ancient in years, but in existence itself. Lennox led the group forward, Tanaka limping behind her, Nash still quiet, withdrawn, flinching at shadows. Elias brought up the rear, weapon in hand, but eyes twitching. The warship had changed them. All of them. Some visibly, others beneath the skin. "You felt it too?" Lennox said, not turning. Tanaka nodded. "It wasn't just communication. It was alignment. We synced," Nash muttered, "like a parasite syncing with its host. Or a symbiote." Elias spat on the ground. "It doesn't matter. When we get back, we torch this place from the surface. Glass the ocean if we have to." "You still think we're above this?" Lennox said quietly. "Like we're still the ones in control." "I don't like what that implies," he shot back. "What does it imply?" "That we were always meant to find it." Lennox stopped walking. They had entered a chamber unlike the others. It wasn't vast. It wasn't complex. It was a simple observation room, looking out into nothing. A black wall of void stretched beyond the glass. Not the ocean, not even space. Just absence. Yet something moved in it. Shapes, memories, possibilities, entire timelines. She saw herself stepping off the submersible. Then again, not stepping off. In another reflection, she never joined the expedition. In another, she died halfway through. And in one, she walked the halls of the warship alone. "This isn't just a ship," Tanaka said. "It's a multiversal core, an anchor point, that thing we saw. The creature, It was never meant to fight in a war. It was the war. It's bleeding through realities, Nash whispered. And every time it touches us, we get overwritten. Elias drew a slow breath, steadying himself. Then what the hell is it doing now? As if in response, the chamber shifted. A panel slid back in the center of the room, revealing a spiral staircase that descended downward into liquid shadow. We've reached its brain, Lennox whispered. Tanaka coughed. Its will. The ship's core isn't energy. It's thought. I'm not going down there, Nash said. You can shoot me if you want, but I'm done following this maze. We're all already inside it, Lennox said, her voice hollow. It doesn't matter which direction you walk anymore. They descended anyway. Each step sank slightly underfoot, like stepping into memory. The air was thick with static, emotion, pain, fear. The staircase opened into a final chamber. Round, bare. In the center hovered the sphere again, but now it was burning with symbols, flashing faster than the eye could follow. It wasn't just thinking anymore. It was calculating, waiting. Across the chamber stood a pedestal. A single object rested atop it. A dog tag. Lennox stepped forward slowly. She recognized the name. Commander Ryan Barrett. USS Alexandria. Missing since 1983. You've got to be kidding me, Elias muttered. Tanaka examined the wall behind the pedestal. There are dozens of these. Shelves. Human names. Some hundreds of years old. I told you, Lennox said. We're not the first. Nash stepped forward, eyes wide. It's curating us. Elias raised his weapon at the sphere. No, this ends now. But as he pulled the trigger, the weapon melted in his hand, liquefying in seconds. Elias screamed, clutching his blistered palm. And then the voice returned. Not external. Internal. Inside every mind at once. All cycles fail. Until you. Images flooded them. Worlds consumed by collapse. Timelines undone by entropy. Civilizations devouring themselves. And always, this ship, sitting silently, sinking into new realities, waiting for sentient contact, hoping for compatibility. This wasn't about invasion. It was about survival. It didn't seek to conquer Earth. It sought a host reality, one that could house it permanently. Lennox fell to her knees. It's trying to bond. With me? Nash asked, stepping back. No, Tanaka whispered. With us. Collectively. Like a planet-scale imprint, Lennox muttered. Earth won't be invaded. It'll be merged. Elias laughed bitterly. And we're the carriers. The sphere began to rise. A beam of light descended from above, engulfing them. Memories not their own crashed into them. Births, deaths, alien cities, star-forged truths. They saw Earth as it was, as it had been, and as it could become. And then, silence. The chamber dimmed. The beam vanished, and they were alone. Tanaka fell over unconscious. Nash wept. Elias stood silently, staring at his blistered hand. Lennox looked around. It didn't bond. No, Tanaka whispered as he stirred. It couldn't. Something stopped it. What? Elias demanded. Tanaka smiled faintly. We failed its compatibility test. Lennox blinked. Wait, that means it's moving on? Tanaka sat upright. No, it doesn't leave. Then what? The ship lurched. Outside the observation window, water was pulling away, evaporating. The ocean was draining upward, reversing like gravity itself had broken. The warship was phasing. Nash backed into the wall. We have to go. Now. Lennox ran to the panel beside the stairs. The hallway they came through had returned. The ship was releasing them. Run, Elias shouted. They sprinted through the warship's twitching, convulsing halls. Siren-like tones began to hum through the corridors, no longer rhythmic. They were fractured, desperate, rejected. The warship wasn't angry. It was in mourning. It had hoped. They reached the submersible bay. Calypso 4 sat in its dock, miraculously intact. Systems were restored. Lights were green. Lennox shoved Nash into the pilot's seat. Can you launch? Yes, I think so. Tanaka slumped into his seat. Elias climbed in last, hand wrapped in cloth. The sub disengaged just as the dock collapsed behind them, the floor folding inward like crushed bone. They launched upward, chased by the hum of something disappointed. As they ascended, The lights of the warship faded below them. And then, a flash, like a dying star imploding silently underwater. The warship vanished, not destroyed, gone. Lennox stared in stunned silence. Then, over comms, finally clear the Ariadne. Calypso 4, do you read? You're 6 minutes behind schedule. No contact since launch. You okay down there? 6 minutes. They had been inside the warship for days. Lennox keyed the mic copy. We're alive. Prepare quarantine protocol. Roger. Quarantine? What? Elias answered. Because we brought something back. Nash turned. Lennox didn't look at him, but in the glass of the console, her reflection blinked half a second late.